that the gal who's on the tennis payroll performs for tennis. And what I'm seeing here is sort of a misleading picture, if you know what I mean, because there should be more expense on the fitness center payroll, because some of that payroll should be allocated to the fitness center, not wherever it comes from, I guess administration or something. And the court sports people, I mean, there are 3 maintenance guys over there. There's got to be maintenance at the fitness center. I know it's in your budget, right? So the maintenance guy isn't on the fitness center payroll either. So what I'm saying here is that when you make these comparisons and you're saying, just look at how much tennis is in the hole compared to fitness, it's not really an accurate representation, because you're not fairly sharing administrative and maintenance costs from the 2 different departments on their payrolls.
Well, I would say you're correct in terms of absolute, but in terms of relative inaccuracies.
No question. The relative.
But we're not doing anything with that other than trying to track costs.
I disagree. What you're doing with this is you're presenting a picture to the community. And in the past, what you've said is, oh, tennis is losing $250,000 a year, and this is a loss that we're having here. But in fact, it's not a loss, it's an expense on a budget that runs in the black every year. The fact is that tennis is not losing money, losing $250,000 a year. It's an expense that we all agree that we're going to pay for because we live in this community when we want our amenities. And so the picture that you present here is a little misleading for people to look at this and say, oh, we're really upside down in tennis compared to fitness. This is not good. But it doesn't have any meaning relatively, as you said. You're correct. I agree with you. But it has a great deal of meaning if you're going to form policy on the basis of saying, we got to do something about this loss. And that's all.
Well, I would make 2 comments. One is we don't have information that's accurate enough in terms of usage yet. We're not using this by itself for decisions. We're using this to put a budget together and to accumulate data. But to the extent that there are these anomalies where there are some costs that are unique to tennis, that is true. That there is a much larger operating cost for tennis, excuse me, than for fitness or bocce or limb stuff.
Correct.
And I do think it's fair that the community understand that, and we've done this for 25 years.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right, but this.
I think what we're trying to do is get to the bottom of accurate financial reporting, and we're working our way there. And I do believe that it's important that people understand where the money goes. Now, is the number 286? I don't know.
It doesn't change the bottom line of the foundation reallocating the money, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, right. What Steve's saying is how it's being portrayed, but even if you took some of the administrative payroll and allocated a portion of that expense to fitness to make fitness have instead of 52,000, it would be 100,000 loss, okay? Administrative expenses in total would go down. The bottom line to the foundation is exactly the same.
Correct.
Okay. So the question is, when you look at the 252 and you've come up with the expenses there, is that strictly the 100% of those 7 individuals who are associated with tennis, or are you adding other things to it?
100% of tennis.
Okay.
It's all tennis.
Yeah, no, see, so that's not really what I'm saying.
No.
What I'm saying is that the employees that we see reflected in that figure are not, the equivalency is not reflected in the fitness figure. In other words, the fitness administrative and maintenance costs are all paid out of the administrative
So
budget.
you could reallocate some of the administrative expenses to make the comparison a little better.
Right, so you're just asking for an accurate picture so everybody can see exactly what's going on here.
Good.
Let me give you a little historical perspective on the fitness center and the front desk, and this may explain why it is that way. I'm not saying it's perfect, but why it is this way. Historically, Patrick, the director of fitness, managed the front desk. It was his responsibility. So there was a natural meshing for that phenomena to happen. Now, I understand your point, but I think that's how we got there.
No,
No.
look, I have no argument with that. I think that probably makes a lot of sense, and that probably explains why the guy is in such good shape.
Yeah. Well, the reality of it, the girls at the front desk, okay, provide service to more of the community. When you take a look at it, if you got 500 people playing tennis, all right, you got 1,800 people using the facility. They walk through here, and the girls at the front desk administer the front desk for fitness, for bocce, for card playing, for administrative answering the phone. If you would take that girl's salary at $20 an hour.
We're offended. We're offended by your
They like the
terminology.
word women instead of
Oh,
girls.
girls, okay, sorry. My Medicare card's running out. Okay. But be what it may, but the attributation, if you wanted to put it in time framing for how much they spend, okay, for each particular item, it's a lot less, okay, for Patrick, because they're doing a service for more than one entity.
No argument with that,
When you
Jerry,
take a
but
look at tennis, they are 100% in the tennis realm.
I agree with you. My point is that this is not an accurate picture of what's going on the cost center analysis, because what you're doing is you're saying much of the fitness expense is being handled by the administration budget. So it's not reflected up there in that number. And it doesn't change the fact that tennis's number is that number. It changes the fact, the delta between those two numbers.
He's just
This is all I'm saying. It gives a
optics.
false impression of
Optics.
what's going on.
There's not that much
It is what it is.
to be allocated.
I would make, let me make a closing comment on this. First of all, it's a preliminary budget. Second of all, it was done the same way we've done. Third of all, if we ever make a decision to do something different than the way we run this place, we will do it with more precision with the numbers. This is a foundation budget. It's not a tennis budget per se. It's not a fitness budget. And in fact, there is no tennis budget. It is a court sports budget. So as we get better data and as we look at where we want to go with this organization, all I am is doing the best that the finance committee can do to let people understand where the money comes from, where it's going, and to recommend what we believe to be good, solid financial planning. Now, are we going to make major decisions based on those numbers? I don't think that would be accurate.
Let me ask you this. When you don't, I got a question after this.
I guess we'll take your question.
Could you go to the slide where you have the two reserves, please? The capital account and the reserve account. No, not that one. The spreadsheet, oh, yeah, that
The
one.
pooled reserves?
Yeah, that's perfect. Let me understand something. Last year, you changed the way the resale fees are distributed.
Correct.
And what you did is you put the piece that goes into operating, and then you transferred it out to
The
the
pooled reserves.
reserve account.
Right.
Fine. And you, I remember you saying, we need to do that for a year or two, just to start building our account up. Okay. And you, and you got rid of the 65,000, which was that one line item that I was opposed to for the last 10 years, but that was okay. What you are reflecting in the two reserves there, the capital account and the reserve account, if you go to year 2020 or 21 or 22, 300,000 up there, 100,000 down there, that's 400,000 divided by 100 resales gives you $4,000. So I don't know, what I'm saying is, what you're telling me as a resident and the rest of the residents, is residents were probably not gonna go back to where we used to leave the money in the operating expense to reduce the cost of our operations. We're gonna use it all in the future into the reserve account and into capital. That's the way it's presented here.
That's a fair statement, yeah, but I did
It's
say.
an accurate statement, and it's
Well,
fair.
what I mean
Yeah.
is, I did say, you really can only look at this out a couple of years because we don't know. We're certainly not gonna keep accumulating money if we don't have to. It was just for the sake of projecting it out, we left it. But yes, you're absolutely right. The board has to make a decision, and there are at least two people on the board that went along with this as a short-term decision only. So I can't guarantee that when my term is up in another year and a half, that any future board would want to continue it. And nor should we make that decision now. I mean, we need another year, I believe, 2020 and 2021.
Well,
Beyond that,
But it's obvious from the numbers as that year-ending balance number starts going from 258 to 450 to 600 to 900. You surely don't have to continue the same practice because there's no need for that money being totally allocated to cap. I've seen these numbers for too many years, so I understand them. You may have a lot of residents here who are brand new or only here a year, don't know the history, don't understand it.
fair.
Okay, so somewhere along the line, either in a footnote or somewhere, you have to explain to people that there was a method change in 2019 and 2020 to start building up the reserve. Well, you're up to, you surely don't have to have $300,000 or 100% of the resale fees going in to build up that reserve to $1.5 million.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's fair. The only comment I would make is that, as you know, being a financial guy, to do anything beyond a couple of years, whether it's income or whatever, and I would suggest we leave this like this, but we are clearer in the fact that out a couple of years, the board has the option to go back to.
Of course, to change
The bylaw.
methodology. Let me ask you another question. You talked about 100 resales. What are we charging now for people who've already bought a house and then buy another house and sell their old house?
Zero.
Oh, we don't charge them anything?
They charge
So-
and get a rebate for that amount.
All right, so in the previous years, where we always used to use 100 resales as being whether they were downsizing, upsizing, or.
Yes, I
Still
know, I've
using
done that
100,
3 times.
Hoping that that's really outside sales, not part of the transfer inside.
Yeah, correct.
That's your hope and desire. Right. Okay. Thank you.
One,
I did have just a real quick question. Well, I think it was on Paul's page 4, where you had the income for the different departments, and under and I gave you the wrong page number apparently. Under the right there, under the fitness center, we have a very large income because that's probably what the contractors are turning in, and then maybe their part is getting paid back to them in the next line.
Yeah.
But obviously under court sports, the number is far too small. Is that a net number for down there instead of a gross?
no,
number?
it's just a difference in the way it's done. In the case of court sports, the employees are fixed. Some of the employees, in other words, Johan and Victor, take in some dollars. We don't get any of Johan's tennis lesson dollars, but we get a piece of Victor's. So, but the costs don't change so much. So any changes in the expense end in court sports is unrelated on the cost side to their activity level.
So it's not like taking in and paid back out, like
Right,
even
no.
though it might physically happen.
We get a very small percentage of Victor's, So the cost doesn't change.
A follow-up on that is, you know, our $1,500, you broke it down for us, and it was helpful that the cable was $943, and then $595 was operating. Do we know the numbers of how the $595 splits up? Like, how much does it cost for the community center, bocce, or something like that? Do we know how the $595 is broken up?
Well, we basically do, and based on the way we account now, these are the only two services that have a net cost to them. So, for example, Lynn has no net cost because she basically, it's either a free service that she gives to the community with people that come in, or she charges you. So if you want to go to the dinner on Thursday, when is that? November 7th. If you want to go to the welcoming back dinner, it's $30, right? So over the year, what we basically find is there's a little in and a little out, she makes a little, loses a little, but at the end of the year, she's made money on all the incremental stuff that she provides our community. Now, also, and to be fair to a point, which is not the point that Steve made, but Lynn is up in the top. She's in administration. She's not shown as a cost center.
That's not part of the $595, though, is it?
Yeah.
Administration, so do we know how much is administration, how much is corporate?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, you can say that if you pull it apart, that in that 595, you've covered 200. Let's just round up. Let's just say you've covered 300 of the 595 is tennis and fitness. That's the out of pocket for tennis and fitness. So
The other 300 is administration.
the other 300 is all the administrative stuff that we do around here, manage, anything. Everything you do here is covered in that remaining number.
Thank you.
Rich.
On this cost center summary thing, I'm not a finance guy, when you show income and expense, it's a totally different business model than the tennis course. I mean, I'm not sure I understand, but I'm a contractor. Do I pay to use this facility to teach people to exercise? Like
I
No.
give you a piece of what I get when somebody pays me for fitness. So there's no cost associated, there's only an incremental revenue associated with that person. The only cost in fitness is Patrick. There's no other personnel direct cost.
So he's the 400.
Whereas in tennis or the court, it's the same thing. Only the full-time direct or part-time direct costs associated with court are in that number. It's consistent from that standpoint. There's just a different way that fitness provides service versus tennis.
So I'm still confused. We show $412,000 as income. Now, so I come in and I pay $10 and go to the gym, that's $10 right?
No, you don't pay anything to go to the gym unless you...
Unless you're a guest.
Yeah. Unless you're a guest, or unless you hire one of those contractors to do some workouts
All right,
with.
go back to the slide that shows you two cost centers.
Hey, Rich, I think of it this way, but maybe, I think I'm addressing your question, but maybe it's not. As it relates to fitness, all the income from all the contractors gets posted as revenue to us, and then it all flows out back to the individuals. Every Thursday, I'm signing checks for people
In the fitness center.
in the fitness center. So that's why that revenue number looks so large. It's not because of you going and scanning your fob and getting a $10
Okay,
charge.
so if I pay Stu $100,
Yeah,
that's $100 in income.
yes.
Now, what's the expense?
90.
So,
90 is what we pay back to the contractor.
Contractors, good.
You keep that, but
We,
So we're
Because the money comes in to the association,
Got it.
and we keep 10% commission, so to speak, and then we pay them their money back.
We don't charge them a fee for the use of our facilities.
The contractor,
The 10%.
that's the 10%.
That's the 10%.
While we have this slide up, I have a comment. Just as some of us reacted vehemently to Jerry's comment of calling our adult female service providers girls, words matter. And on this very slide, we've got 2 examples of words that are actually, I believe, incorrect for a not-for-profit institution. To call it profit and loss is not appropriate language in my understanding of not-for-profit organizations. There is no profit, there could be surplus, there could be losses, but profit is an inappropriate term to be using. And in addition, it's not income, it's revenue. And that's where part of the confusion is. It's not income, the correct term for that is revenue received by the organization, not income.
That's fair, that's a very good observation. So we will, for the presentation in November, we will make that change, and thank you. Steve?
Could I see the operating statement again, please?
Page 3.
So
Yeah, I know it does all everywhere.
can you just explain, because I don't really get everything on here, but what do we mean by operating net income? What does that refer to? I know what it was.
Well, I'm corrected, I'm not supposed to use income or loss.
Right, my apologies.
It is the surplus that's left between the operating income at the top, which we will state differently, and the expenses. It is simply that prior to any subsidies or prior to cable or anything, that's the operating. In other words, the 595 piece is for operations. The 900 and some change piece is for cable, and we've started separating the two because they tended to be all hidden away together on a single line at the top of it. So we pulled cable out to say, it's only really $595 that you are paying for the foundation. The rest you're paying is for your cable. So that was what we did a couple of years ago. Now what we're trying to do is show where the money comes from without regard to what term you use, and where it goes without regard to the term. So that's what the operating income is, the sources of money that are coming into us, the top line.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
My question is regarding the operating net income. So this is as the income and expenses fluctuate, you're left with either, you have budgeted 0, you have 40,000 in there, which is your total 2019 projection. So like, just as an example, I look back to your treasurer's report from July 31st, the operating net income there was
Big.
$85,000.
Yep. And
So-
you'll notice that I made 2 comments then. That was, be a little bit careful for 2 things. One is we do the best we can during the monthly budgets, but we don't, sometimes we don't have enough data to do when we think we're going to spend it, so we spread it. So that's one. And the second is, we've got a number of expenses that we've got planned for costs that are coming in late in the year. Like, for example, we're still working on the drainage, which is $19,000. We're still working on the basketball court, which is $20,000. So we've got those kinds of expenses. It might very well be, for example, that there are other operating costs. We're doing some extra landscaping or whatever. So that's why we go, what we do is try to get as much actual as we can through the end of September. We used to do it in August, which was even worse. So now we do the end of September, and then we sit down and we talk to Johan and Patrick, and we look at all of our expected costs, and we do a 3-month projection, and then we add it to the date through September, and that's where we get the end of the year projected. So you're always going to have, for example, January, February, and March are strong months for money coming in. And so the beginning of the year is always going to show a much better potential profit that as the year continues on and some of the money doesn't keep coming in evenly. So that's still the best we can do. We don't know until we get finished all of our expenses at the end of the year.
First of all, I don't know how you kept the assessments the same for 2 years in a row, but I commend you on that. No one has said that, but that's remarkable with expenses going up and everything else. So somehow you did it. I haven't figured it out yet.
Well, I told you at the beginning, well, one of the things we did was go to Iberia. And we restructured the whole
Yeah, you got
thing.
some more.
Well, we got an extra $30,000.
That helps.
Yeah.
That helps. Okay.
This is as accurate, it just works out that way.
But no, I think it's a rough.
All right, so have we discussed the budget enough, or is
I
it?
just got 2 quick questions. And one is, when a director puts out a budget request for equipment, does that director say, these are the pieces of equipment I want in addition to what I have, or the replacement of certain items, or is it just a number? For example, in fitness, if I want $8,000 for equipment, have I identified what I need it for?
Well, I think it varies. You get very detailed requests from Paul, and you're going to get one if we ever get to that on this meeting for some additional things for the pickleball area. He'll define what it is. It's a canopy, it's chairs, and it's a table. Because we know there's going to be, as Johan said, the first 2-3 hours of the day, you got 4 courts that are busy, that weren't busy before because they're new courts. So we're always trying to say where are their needs, and you're going to get a proposal with a picture maybe even. But it's defined, and before we make that, the finance committee has to help him review it and decide whether it's an expense, it's a reserve, or it's a capital. And so we know, he'll say, do you have money in the reserve? Can I do this now? Usually the reserve, you got to do it. When he comes and says your air conditioner's broken, I'm going to have to buy 3 air conditioners. But he says, well, I'd like to spend some money on capital for the following. Or is it really just an expense? And truthfully, there's some flexibility. If we have a good year and we've got a couple of bucks, we might be willing to spend a couple of dollars instead of waiting until next year. So we have that as a financial, that's why I like having 3 people on my committee, so it's not a unilateral decision for me.
Back to Patrick's question, or Jim's question about Patrick. If Patrick has a request on a piece of equipment or a change, he comes to me and I say, okay, let's look at the reserve schedule. Where are we at with the reserve schedule? When is that piece of equipment due to be replaced anyway? There was a case recently where one of the pieces of equipment where the board went out. And I asked him to replace that board, is it worth replacing the board rather than just replacing the equipment with brand new? And we look at the schedule, and if it's due to be replaced the following year, we just bump it up a year. So that's what we handle that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's proceed to the design review committee written report.
I move that we approve the report as submitted as only one item.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. It's carried. Okay. Next, please.
So back to under committee reports, the pickleball committee was reporting about the courts opening up. And they've come to me stating that with the anticipation of the players coming to play pickleball this season, they're going to need some additional seating over by the courts to accommodate the players. So the pickleball committee is recommending that 5 tables with 5 chairs per table be purchased. And in addition, they would like to include a canopy over the seating area for shading, much like the tennis has in front of the pro shop. We've got an initial cost for this canopy to be installed. It's a slightly scaled down version of what we have over by tennis, but that would be $23,000 for the canopy. And the tables and chairs would cost around $3,500 to purchase. So the pickleball committee is requesting a motion be made to authorize funds not to exceed $27,000 for the installation of the canopy and the purchase of the tables and chairs. Now, I was talking to them, most likely I can be able to compete this canopy install and get the pricing down.
Now, where is this located? Between courts, what I refer to 1 and 2?
Yes.
I've got a picture.
Stand for the first year.
I'm going to move to approve their request.
The picture on the screen shows you the rendering of the canopy, where it would go. The seating would go under the canopy. Now the bike racks would be moved, along with purchase of additional bike racks as needed along the side of the pro shop for that area.
So there's been a motion made, is there a second?
Where?
I'll second it.
Further discussion, questions on the board?
I would say it ought to be universal seating area because you're not going to separate out anybody from what sport they're playing. Question really is, do you need additional canopy area and seating area because of the additional sport? The answer is yes. I would support the motion.
Any other comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. All right, so is there any other new business before the board?
We were talking about the fobs, converting, and if you want to think about the future, we're going to have an abundance of people coming in January and February. And my suggestion would be that we set up a schedule by community and time frame so that people could come down, say Egrets Walk could come down on a Monday between 1 and 2. Ravenna could come down at another day, another time, rather than try to hit the front desk with 30 people trying to get their fobs all at one time. Because you're going to have that, we have that same situation at the desk when people come in January with their leases. Everybody wants to get their lease approved, and we're going away with the number of people. So if we could plan that ahead, I would suggest that we start it even now so that the people, how many people here have a fob in the room? See, that's excellent. Okay, that's because they all play. All right? And that's good.
No, just got it.
You know? Good.
But,
But,
We don't need it.
yeah, you're in a minority. Okay, my wife doesn't have one yet.
my wife doesn't have it.
So if you could, start that at a point now, we won't overload the front desk.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
It's operationally, it took 15 seconds to get my new fob from the front desk. They're very adept.
Yeah, I know, but they got girls, excuse me, ladies.
All right, let's stay in order here. I'd like to go to board member comments.
The big tree.
I've got a comment.
Okay, please go ahead.
Board comment. Okay, I've got a comment. I'm always sorry that the meeting is taking so long because there's not many people here. But fortunately, we're going to be on TV. So I'm going to make my statement anyway.
You should have worn a blue shirt.
I should have. I want to set the record straight. There are things that are being said and spread by email around the community about me that are personally damaging and hurtful to my wife and to me. One of the mean-spirited rumors being spread is that we were asked to leave the Pelican Marsh Golf Club. We joined the club in 2001. I was elected and served on the Board of Governors for 6 years. In 2016, of our own free will, we decided we were giving up our membership, so we sold it. We were never asked to leave the club. This rumor is unequivocally false. Whoever is spreading the rumor has no idea of what he or she is talking about. There is absolutely no truth that I was asked to leave the golf club. The next falsehood really gets me because it's been said I'm not really an attorney. Again, let me set the record straight. I was licensed to practice law in Illinois in 1969 and in Florida in 1970. I had a successful practice. In over 40 years of practice, there have been no disciplinary proceedings. After relocating to Naples, I retired my Illinois license in 2012 and my Florida license in 2013. I no longer provide legal advice, but I do have legal knowledge of issues, and I always turn to our board attorney to verify and confirm anything of a legal nature that comes before the board. I have no issue if you don't agree with my opinions, but I do have an issue if you attack me personally with false, defamatory language. It's not only me that has been attacked, but it's also other members of this board. These falsehoods have no place in a civil society. They have no place in Pelican Marsh. This is not the atmosphere that we should condone in Pelican Marsh. These slings and arrows should not be tolerated. We don't have to agree, but we should be able to be civil to one another. Let's put an end to this kind of behavior because the people in Pelican Marsh, because we are all better than this.
Thank you, Jeff. I have a comment. I want to just make a point of clarity. Earlier, when I introduced the concern that I had about above-ground fuel tanks, I was not advocating for a change. I was exposing a problem that we need to address. Other board member comments? President comments.
I have Gary Duran, I just have one. And it's for the future, because you can't do anything about the past. The next time you do a project down here, just like you just built the pickleball, X amount of years ago you built the bocce. Today, I'm listening to what you're proposing, and all of a sudden, now we need chairs, now we need a canopy. Why can't, when you're looking at a project, look at what it's going to be, not just a piece of it. It's just like the bocce. You get nickel and dimed on that whole area back. It's very nice, but then you needed a water fountain. Then you needed a kitchen. Then you needed a this and that. You know, when you present a project, it's always nice to present the cost of a project. Not that it's going to have any impact on it, but at least you know what's going on.
Fortunately, this one didn't flirt anywhere near the threshold. Point noted. Thank you. Laura?
Thank you. This goes back to committees and meetings, even though you don't have to post the time and date of a meeting. I'm wandering through the building. I happen to know there's a meeting going on at 1 o'clock, and I decide to go and take part in the meeting. Am I welcome?
I think it'd be that's a decision by that committee.
How do you make those decisions, I guess?
Pardon me?
How would you make that decision?
Whoever's running that
So
committee
they
would
can
make that
basically
decision.
show you the door.
Well, I'm sure they'd be polite about it, but
That's not the answer I was looking for.
I don't know. I mean,
Don't let the door hit me in the butt on the way out, is that it?
this is sort of, in the past, that's never been an issue. Now all of a sudden it's an issue.
Well, because
Because that's why it was brought up about
More of
posting.
the language is if the committee so desires.
To post the meeting. That was my understanding.
Yeah.
But
Oh, it's
I
just.
think her question is if she asked to go into.
If you go in after it's, there has been no posting.
No, I found out there's a meeting today that I might want to attend, and just because they didn't post it, I just happened to know there's a meeting. And I just decided to show up on the meeting.
Let me make a comment. Some of you know that I've spent a lot of my life in not-for-profits after, I earned my living as profit, but I've been involved in this stuff for a long time. It's nice to think that you ought to be able to go into a meeting because you're interested, but it's very disruptive to the structure of the way a lot of people are trying to run their meeting, because you come in, you don't know what was said, or you might have some questions, and the committee is not making any decisions. They're trying to get things done, to make recommendations. So if you are interested, come to the board meetings. We don't get a lot of people at board meetings except when there's an issue that we've got, like pickleball. We get a lot of people because it's a big issue. But the committee's put in an amazing amount of time. Anyone that's been on a committee understands. And to have a person just walk in because they think it might be something they'd be interested in, it can be very disruptive. And that's why we said, give the guy that runs, or the gal is that okay if I said guy or gal? Give the person that runs the committee.
Leader would be good.
Give the leader that runs the committee.
Your neutral pronoun.
The opportunity to make a decision. He or she will say, look, do we want to get input from the general community? Do we want to make a big deal? Let's publish this committee structure. Let's get people to come in, because there are things we want to get from the rest of the community. But most times, people are giving up a lot of hours to get stuff done. And they want to be able to focus on it, and they want to get it structured. And people have to do a lot of things off hours to prepare for the committee meeting. So for example, there is no way I want people to be coming into the President's Council meeting or the Finance Committee, because you'd spend the whole time saying, well, I don't understand this. Why did you make that point? But on the other hand, we're not going to make a decision. We're going to present it and you're going to see it. If you're interested, sign up for a committee. Come to a board meeting.
You can also limit participation.
Yes.
Other than board meetings that are more sunshine oriented, you can limit and you can have no one talk. I've sat at various advisory and other meetings in greater regions that no one talked, they listened.
There's always the law of unintended consequences. And I agree with what you're saying. You can, just like this meeting, it's a board meeting with audience attendance and then audience participation. But a lot of times, some of these committees will meet, they often meet in the conference room, in the administrative offices. Now all of a sudden, if we have a lot of people showing up, we may have to kick out the card player so we can have a meeting. And that's not going to go over very well. So there's always unintended consequences. But
I'm saying you can always, and then if people decide to keep it open and allow people to come, then participation can be limited.
yeah, and I think it's good for some committees.
No community input other than listening, and they can write or they can, but I'm just saying there are ways that.
It's,
One way might be if the committees do write minutes, have the minutes be posted somewhere so that we could all access them. I assume all the committees have minutes, so that would be sort of a nice way to participate without participating, at least be aware of what was going on.
it could be put on the website. We post, well, not only do we video these meetings, but we also post the minutes, the board minutes on the website. but perhaps
I mean the
also-
committee minutes on the website,
Sure.
if you could do that.
It can be done. It's a good idea. Sure.
Okay, just one last second, and I just want to piggyback on Jeff. We need some, the sage that goes around the room here to take out the bad juju. Remarks that have been made to me have been horrible. I had my husband come with me today. This is probably the only meeting in my life, and I've been in nonprofit for 25 years and ran my own agency, that I actually asked my husband to come to a meeting. We go to things together, but I asked him to come with me today because of the town hall meeting. I was cursed at, I've been screamed at, people have said things to me, and I'm really a nice person. I mean, I don't deserve this.
Cindy, thank you for sharing that. I'm very sorry that it's happened to you. There is a committee, the 2.06 committee, where if you want to file a complaint against a resident for inappropriate behavior, you can do that, and then it goes to the board, and then the board puts together a committee to render judgment. The board doesn't even make that decision, but that is available to you if that.
And I will say, just one second, I just want to finish. And I will just say, I'm not going to do that, because I'm actually taking the high road. I will never speak to that person again. So that person's not getting a pass from me. That person could be alone on Thanksgiving and have nowhere to go, and my door would close to them. So that's how I will handle it. And so I won't do that. But I'm just saying, look, if this is supposed to be my paradise, I mean, I've owned since 2003, you know, this is a sport, this is fun. Would it take away your children? You know, I have a sister who has cancer. I have things in my life. We all do. And we need to put perspective on this. I've made it my goal. I've gone up to people. I've put my hand out, said, hi, I'm Cindy Del Rossi. You know me from across the room. I'm taking the high road right now. But I will tell you, because my husband left, so I can talk about this, because he's going to be tired. But I won't do it anymore. I will do that. If this happens again, and I am cursed out again, and someone tells me to turn the F around and shut my effing mouth, I will stand up at that meeting in front of everybody, so I'm giving notice. I will scream at that person, and from that moment on, that person will be
scream in control,
so
and then file your complaint.
So I just want to say, let's put it away. I'm
sorry this happened to
So
you.
let's put it away.
Joan?
I just want to say.
Cindy had told me about this a couple of days ago when we had a conversation, and she already knows how I feel about Johan quoted me earlier in saying, you know, we used to be, what I had told Johan was, we used to be a club with, on the courts, 1 sport and 9 courts. Now we have 2 sports and 12 courts. That's my perspective on it. We are members playing games. There's not a lot of money riding on these games. We're just members playing games, getting exercise, and making friends.
Yes.
That's totally my perspective on all of it.
Yes.
So when you told me what had happened, it hurt me deeply, and I went to people I had just come off the tennis courts with. We have to told them, we have to make sure this kind of thing is out. This has no place. The response I got though, and the epilogue to the story that was so hurtful, and I totally understand.
A little louder,
your feel
Joan.
on that.
Can you just speak this way instead?
Okay, I'm trying to also talk.
That's
to
all right,
her.
I can hear
Sorry.
you. I can
So, the epilogue on that is what I heard when I went back to a table of ladies at the table under the existing canopy was, I knew something happened, and then the next thing was that the person sitting next to that person scolded that individual and said, watch your language, that's not appropriate. So I don't know if you heard that exchange that happened from 2 seats over.
No, to be honest with you,
So-
I was just so taken back that I didn't.
But I
hear
do
it.
want to just add that in.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
Please don't paint a broad brush.
Oh, no, I know that, I know where that's
So there
going.
was awareness something
Stick to the issue.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. No, I'm glad.
Time to go.
Yes.
Thank you for that information.
Isn't this, I was waiting for the member time to talk because.
Well, this has been the rest of the sentence. Go ahead.
I move for adjournment.
Would you like the microphone?
Quiet, everybody, please.
Okay, I took notes off the time because there wasn't an opportunity for me to speak. I think, first of all, when you do field owner-member comments during the meeting, keep it even-handed. I assumed that we were not able to provide input at the time of the discussion, but later on a different amendment bylaw thing, there were comments. So just watch for that. But on the topic of the board membership eligibility, and now we have a 3-month residency requirement, so I'm wondering on implementation of that, how will you adjudicate qualifications for board running? How will you know that someone is living here for 3 months and not a week less than 3 months? And if someone is owning a unit, they rent out for the season of, they rent out their unit and the amenities along with it for October to June, and live in the unit July, August, and September, where they retain the membership during that time, that person would qualify. How will you identify that the person is relinquishing their membership for 9 months of the heart of the season, but keeping it for themselves in the 3 months on the
I
off
think we
season?
can ask that individual to prove it. Just
What we are
But what are you-
going to be, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be having particular applications or documents for the people involved to fill out. And hopefully that'll give us the necessary information we need to make the kind of determination that you're talking about.
Joan actually suggested that. Joan
Joan's
actually
the one-
Yeah, I'm the
suggested
Joan
that.
Joel, that's being quoted.
Well, that's what we're going to do because of your
Okay.
suggestion.
That's what I told you, Joe, it's happening.
There's going to be a cross-referencing. If somebody leases out their property, we have a record of it here.
You certainly do, you
So
should.
if Joe Jones comes in and says, you know, I want to be on the board and I'm here for 3 months more, and he's got his place leased out for the year, you know, we could tell him, you know, you're not eligible.
Okay, so, but somebody
There's gonna be
is
some additional
eligible
vetting.
who leases it out through the heart of the season, but is here
Yeah,
for
that's,
the off season, you're okay with that? Okay, just clarifying. Members under sanction, for whatever, you have some sanctions, you talked about there's a sanction committee. Are members under sanction or members who are in arrears on their HOA, master HOA payments? Are they members in good standing? Are you eliminating people who aren't members in good standing?
That's a
The
lot of
statute already
complicated
requires,
process.
they have to be in good
statute
standing.
already addresses delinquencies of candidates. That if they're 90 days or more, they can't serve.
Because I think part of what you're trying to do is make sure that people aren't going to the board where they have a grudge against
At
the
the
foundation.
At the HOA level.
But I don't think it was listed in your qualifications for running for board.
Well, it's all documented in the documents, the governing documents.
In the bylaws or the declaration, it's in there.
It wasn't
Yes.
anything you
They
said.
have to be
the
in good
rules,
standing.
It wasn't anything you
Current
said.
and outstanding.
Also, on the estoppel fee, and there's talk, I didn't expect at all to hear about raising estoppel fees when you had just presented data that shows we have an ever-increasing remaining balance in our foundation budget. So I'm not sure why there would be talk of raising estoppel fees, but I want to comment on that.
Well, wait a
That when you
minute,
look at-
hang on a second.
When,
There was no discussion about raising them, there was a discussion about always looking at all the fee structure on an ongoing basis. We do that all the time, but there's no active expectation right now that we're going to raise the 4,000, that we're going to raise estoppel fees, or we're doing anything.
okay, I
Because
heard
we haven't-
4,000
we're
to
going over it.
4,500.
No.
No, there's
We
a
haven't
difference,
talked
by
about
the
it,
way,
it's not
between
discussed.
estoppel fees and the resale fee.
Resale fees.
Okay, estoppel fee is just the fee they pay in order to get documentation that your dues are paid in full, et cetera.
Oh, I thought that the resale fee was the estoppel.
No.
I had the wrong word. Words matter, so, thank you.
You can make this
So,
a
on the
mistake.
resale fee.
Well, the resale fee, to answer your question is, we have a long-range planning committee that at some point will get back and might or might not have recommendations that will require us to spend a lot of money. So I would never say we're not going to consider it. For example, I know Jerry said I can't put a second floor over fitness, but if Patrick came to me and said, those numbers that are going up so fast, I need another 5,000 square feet, we might look at the structural ability to do something that costs us $1 million. Who knows? I don't know. So we're not gonna do anything without getting feedback from the planning committee and from our operating directors.
I think it's one thing to talk about raising revenue in response to an opportunity or a need, rather than because everybody else is doing it or because another community charges more, that we should charge more. And that was what I heard in the discussion about the resale fee. So I wanted to comment about that, and also to add to a perspective that when you're talking about a resale fee on a property that costs in the $300,000 and on a property that costs $3.5 million, it does make a difference to a selling buying situation on a different level, because while $4,500 or $4,000 may not seem like much if you're coughing up $3.5 million, if you're competing with 12 other Ariel or Acres Walk condos that are all on the market at the very same time, and we are competing with Piper's Grove at that level because we're looking at location and proximity to community opportunities at Mercado or the beach or whatever. So some of our condo neighborhoods do compete with neighborhoods like Piper's Grove and things like that don't have such high fees on them. But in comparison to other amenitized communities, please keep in mind also that our overall master HOA fees are extremely low compared to the other amenitized upscale communities, not Piper's Grove, but to compare ourselves to other upscale communities, even of our age.
In years past, even treasurers before, kind of like Dave Wallace, did comparative studies with 6 local contemporaries of ours, and so it was all benchmarked. That's all good information, you're right.
We benchmark all the time.
Okay, I don't see any
Also,
other...
I have one other comment on this very thing. Please make sure that in arranging this space, that we're leaving access routes for emergency people, because I might be the one to fall down on the pickleball court, and I do believe the county will require access for emergency people to get through.
Sure.
It's all been taken
seating
care of.
area.
It's all been approved.
Thank you. Any other business before the board?
I move for adjournment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Long meeting, but appreciate you sticking around.
Aye, aye, aye.
Ladies, okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. When does a person
When do you stop being
All of us has anything to say over the last 6 years.
Because that was a good answer. But you know what? I don't.
We
Hey
have
guys,
all
hey boys.
with very
No one would ever say.
disgusting comments.
No one would ever say that.
The guy at the desk, the man at the
No one
desk.
would ever say that.
I'll tell you a story.
I was a senator outside of the factory during the Second World War with late females, girls. That's all we ever sent to girls. All the signage was girls.
I was in Superior. I was in the bar in Superior School with some friends. And somebody came in